Number 1, the Stanley Hotel. Made famous as the hotel inspiring Stephen King's The Shining, the Stanley Hotel holds a dark and eerie past, dating back to its year of construction, 1909. The Stanley Hotel was originally built by Freeland Oscar Stanley as a tuberculosis treatment center. As it was high up in the mountains, he had found that the air had significantly helped his symptoms of the sickness. He wished to help other people as well. He opened the hotel as a treatment center in 1909 and created over 100 rooms on the bottom 3 floors, leaving the 4th floor as a single-family living space. The first tragedy struck the Stanley Hotel in the form of a gas explosion. When the hotel first opened, it was one of the only places to have fully modernized electricity running through the entire building. Due to the property being so isolated, they had to install an auxiliary gas lighting, powered by burning gases as fuel. But in 1911, the system malfunctioned and there was an explosion. Parts of the building were wrecked. 8 people were injured, one of them being a maid who was propelled down the main stairs from the infamous room 217. But I'll get into that in just a minute. The grand staircase that the maid was hurled down is the cause for far more mysteries surrounding the hotel. Many people claim to have seen people standing on the staircase, girls in white dresses, or past patients walking up and down the stairs. On the Stanley Hotel Ghost Tour, many people have been lucky enough, or unlucky enough depending on who you are, to capture a blurry photograph of the girl in the white dress. A girl that they do not recall seeing when the photo was taken. The 4th floor of the Stanley Hotel was a single-room attic space when the hotel was originally constructed, but upon increased demand, they created more rooms on the 4th floor, which apparently created more space for the paranormal to lurk. Room 401 is said to have a closet that opens and closes itself. Room 407 has an invisible presence that sits on the bed while guests are sleeping. And in room 428, you might be visited by the ghost of a cowboy. Throughout the entirety of the 4th floor, you can hear children laughing and giggling below, and most strangely, above you. Seeing as the 4th floor is the highest level, it's obvious that hearing children run above you would be worrying, ghost or not. Room 217 is the holder of the most well-known stories behind the Stanley Hotel, and is the inspiration for the creation of The Shining. In 1974, Stephen King stayed at the Stanley Hotel in room 217, and during his stay, he experienced a very unnerving nightmare. And if a nightmare is able to unnerve Stephen King, it's certain that it was something peculiar. This nightmare inspired him to write The Shining. The gas explosion of 1911 was sparked in room 217, started by the maid, who fell down the stairs, who lit a torch while the gas pipes were overflowing. People claim that the maid can still be heard walking through the room, talking and laughing to herself, yet still providing excellent service as she continues to clean the room and make the bed at random times. Number 2, the Hotel Chelsea. Located in New York City, Hotel Chelsea has gained extreme popularity in the paranormal community due to the myriad of strange occurrences that people have witnessed. Now abandoned, the once lively hotel finds itself nearly empty, filled only with spirits. Opened in 1884, the Chelsea was designed as a co-op where people could live together as a community and find comfort in those living around them. The founder, Philip Hubert, reserved rooms for the people who built the hotel: electricians, plumbers, interior designers, and construction workers. They all got a place to live at the Chelsea. At the time it was built, the 12-story building was the tallest building in New York. Sadly, in 1905, Philip Hubert went bankrupt, and the dream that he had created began to crumble before his eyes. The Chelsea was converted into a hotel and was frequently visited by many high-status guests or permanent residents. The Chelsea became an artist colony, with some of the artists trading paintings for rent money. Children of wealthy parents found solace in the welcoming community, and for just a moment, it seemed as though Hubert's vision continued to prosper. People would come from all over the world, paying for a room, only to take in the art in the lobby. The hotel has many ghosts, though only a few have multiple substantiated sightings. Mary has the most sightings from guests. As a survivor of the Titanic, Mary arrived at the hotel very depressed and distraught. Unable to move on from the trauma she had faced, she soon took her own life in her 5th floor apartment. Mary's ghost now spends most of her time under the arch that was the original entryway, staring at herself in the mirror and becoming frustrated at the living who dare to disturb her. Nadia was a young woman who threw herself out of a window at the hotel after removing her own hand. The ghost of Nadia is now seen with a severed hand, trying to find her way back into the hotel, walking in aimless circles and unable to re-enter. The Hotel Chelsea was officially closed in 2011 due to the damaged state of the very old building. Many are still attempting to restore the Chelsea to its original glory, but the spirits of past residents don't provide the most help. Number 3. The Amwana Holiday Inn. In 1980, on Friday, September 10th, Roger and Rose arrived at the Amwana Holiday Inn in Iowa. When they first arrived, they planned to only stay one night, but after a terrifying turn of events, they had a much more permanent stay than they'd originally anticipated. On Saturday morning, the hotel manager, Dean, grew concerned by the couple's delay in checking out. Dean went to the couple's room and opened the locked door, a heart-stopping scene. The room trashed, covered in a red, sticky substance, and the couple laid in bed unmoving. Dean called the police, who showed up immediately. The police confirmed Dean's worst fears. The couple was no longer alive. Police knew that they had been made victim to a brutal attack, but many questions still remained. The hotel room had no signs of forced entry, no missing items or ransacked clothes. The most perplexing part of this case was the bar of soap spelling this. There were small pieces of soap next to the bed, as though the killer was sitting and doing a project. The inn was at full capacity that night, and no staff members saw anyone exit or enter the locked room of Roger and Rose. Staff say they didn't even see anyone walk in that direction. No noise disturbances were heard either. It was as if the killer just disappeared into thin air. Hundreds of people were interrogated or interviewed, but no one had ever been able to provide any useful information regarding the truth of what happened that night. The case went cold, and many people began to create conspiracies and speculations as to who the killer could have been, and reasoned that the most probable answer was the killer being a ghost. Number 4. Hotel Cecil. Found in the sunny state of California, Hotel Cecil is an LA hotspot of mysterious circumstances. Built in 1924, the Cecil was a destination for businessmen and high-class clientele. But following the Great Depression, it became a low-cost location for a few not quite legal businesses, and even later became the treasured home of spirits, unanswered questions, strange occurrences, and even killers. The Cecil's connection to high volumes of death and disappearances began shortly after it was opened. In the 1930s alone, the Cecil had at least 6 cases of guests taking their own lives. In 1962, a man walking by the hotel was struck by a woman who had jumped out of her window, ending both of their lives almost instantly. By this point, the number of dark occurrences had climbed so high and so quickly that the hotel was dubbed the most haunted hotel in Los Angeles. In the mid-1980s, Richard Ramirez, also referred to as the Night Stalker, stayed in the Cecil Hotel during a large part of his spree, claiming the lives of many in the area during his stay. Another killer from Australia also took up residence in the hotel, apparently due to hearing that Ramirez had once stayed there. Though the hotel was home to prolific killers, there are many deaths that have remained unsolved tragedies. In the mid to late 20th century, multiple guests were found in their rooms in upsetting states and unresponsive. Others were found in the same state outside the hotel. Having no cameras in the hotel at the time, people were hesitant to believe that these acts were committed by something of a different realm. But after security footage from Elisa Lam's last moments was released, people began to credit the paranormal for some of the past unsolved tragedies. Elisa Lam was a young Canadian student who stayed at the Cecil in 2013. In her last moments, there is a video footage of her in an elevator, frantically hiding and speaking to empty spaces, obviously terrified. Elisa's body was found in the water tank on top of the building 3 weeks after she had gone missing. Authorities ruled her death as accidental, but many believe that something much more sinister was the cause, citing the similarities between her tragic story and others from the past. In 2023, the hotel is now being renovated as an attempt to completely rebrand itself. But I'm not so sure the spirits left living there are going to be any more welcoming to the next generation of guests that stays in the hotel. Number 5. Langham London. Built in 1865 with over 500 rooms, the Langham is an unsurprising host of paranormal activity. The strange activity was first brought to attention in 1965, exactly 100 years after its founding, by several guests who all claimed to see the same 5 ghosts on multiple different occasions. The most cited ghost was described as a German man of high social class wearing fine clothes. Guests say he often floats through walls and paintings, from room to room, lowering the temperature with merely his presence. Room 333 is considered the most haunted room in the hotel, believed to be the host of an extremely outgoing yet silent ghost. A reporter staying there with his colleagues was woken up in the dead of night to a bright, glowing light descending towards him. Upon gazing at it further, he was able to make out a Victorian woman, missing her legs and reaching her arms out to him. The reporter ran from his room to get his colleagues, who returned to the room and saw the fading image of the ghost. Guests who stay there continue to report odd occurrences, like taps turning on and off, lights flickering, and temperatures drastically rising and falling. The hotel continues to stay open and accept guests, and many people in search for interaction with the paranormal find themselves in the haunted halls of the Langham.